It's fair to say that I'm a sucker for 8BitDo controllers. I already have 2 of their products despite already being well enough equipped with Joy-Cons for almost any party, if I actually had any friends, but I've still bought them. I think most people would agree that I don't need any more controllers. Well, I'm an idiot. The 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus is here. Before we get into the review, just a quick history with their controllers. First we had the NES 30, which although limited in its features was a lovely little portable controller depending on the game. Then we had the SN30 Pro, which added most of the major omissions from the previous release. And it's the controller that I use most regularly when in docked play due to every Joy-Con I've ever owned drifting as though they're in competition with each other as to which can be the most annoying. So when the SN30 Pro Plus came along, I didn't really need it. But here we are. What does the Pro Plus add to set it above what came before? Well, from the off you can see it's gone for a more modern controller design with extra grippage. Is grippage a real word? Well, I've just invented it. You've got more space for your hands, and even though I love the retro Super Nintendo design, this definitely has a better form factor and is more comfortable for longer play sessions. It feels excellent in your hands, although reminding me more of the PlayStation line of controllers rather than the Xbox. I know Xbox has a lot of controller fans, so that may be a minor disappointment. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot of differences superficially. The additions are mostly under the hood, and it's definitely aimed at a more hardcore crowd. I think casual gamers may not appreciate this next evolution in 8BitDo's controller line, despite it being one of the best to purchase so far. What this is about is customization, making the controller do what you want it to. Using software provided, you can adjust various aspects of what the controller is capable of. Firstly, the analog sensitivity, whether you need more twitch reaction for your shooter of choice or slower considered movement for a bullet hell shooter that you need to practice at, it's a nice option to have, although slightly on the hardcore side of things for me personally. What I'm all about is the button remapping. Yes, you can change which buttons do what. It's something so simple and not needed for many games since they already have the option within them, but we still do live in an age where some developers either forget or they think they know better as to how they want you to play their game. Nintendo being the prime offender here. So yes, you can change the ridiculous button mapping in the NES online games. Look, I'm playing Mario properly. And very badly because I'm watching my camera recording rather than paying attention. Anyways, the final major addition is that you can map one button to multiple button inputs. Yes, if you want ZR, for example, to act as down and B, then it will. This can make pulling off special moves in fighting games a cinch. It's a concept that I'm pretty new to and apparently is called macros, but in my day we used to call it cheating. But hey, if it opens up new avenues for you in games that you couldn't otherwise get into, then it's fantastic. I'm struggling to think of other games that could make great use of this feature, but I'm sure there are some gamers out there who will be pleased with this feature. Just don't use it in an online fighting game, yeah? So yeah, all of this uses software on the computer to program it, and this is where the biggest major flaw came for me personally. The software is only Windows compatible. I know for 99% of people that's not a problem, but I literally don't own any Windows device, and nowhere in the item description did it say that it's only for Windows. There are software update tools for Mac, and the controller is compatible to use with Mac. But you can't use the customization software, something which did annoy me. And after talking with 8BitDo, they admitted it to being an oversight and are looking to address this in the marketing. Plus, they do have plans to make the software available for Mac in the future. Well, that's what they said. I couldn't use it at home, so I went to my work computer to film footage, and that didn't work either. At that point I thought screw it and it's not a big deal, but then this would not be a complete review, so I headed over to the closest internet bar to mess about with it on there. My first ever time going to one of these places. Anyways, it worked. The software itself is fairly simple to use, although a bit more user friendliness will probably be added once they get feedback from real users. You switch between functions that I mentioned and create profiles for which settings you want. It's clean and simple and intuitive. I downloaded the Chinese version for some daft reason, but I still managed to make my way through it due to its design. It works as stated, but you do have to be careful because once you set the controller to what you want, it can be a bit awkward connecting it back to the Switch and making your way through the menus and into the game you want to use it with. Don't forget, many of the buttons will be mixed up, and instead of entering a game, maybe you'll accidentally close it depending on what you've set. I think an extra dip switch on the controller could have gone a massively long way into making it far less awkward. One setting for standard and one setting for whichever profile you set it as. It took me 10 seconds of using these tools to realize that a dip switch should have been an essential feature. So yeah, it does what it says on the tin, but it does come with a lot of awkwardness too. I know the customization is a big selling point, but it's not quite there yet in terms of ease of use. And after testing it for you guys, it's probably not something I'm going to go out of my way to do often, even if I did own a Windows device. Anyways, moving on, in my unboxing video there were lots of questions from you guys that I wanted to specifically address, some features that you were wondering about and so on. Think of this kind of like a Q&A session. Like the last controller, this Pro Plus still has gyro aiming, which is something a lot of third-party controllers lack. It feels exactly like the Switch's official controllers and I didn't notice any difference. I played Doom, Breath of the Wild and Turok with the motion controls and it's perfectly fine. There is no HD rumble sadly. I'm not sure if any other third-party controller has that or not, answers in a postcard please. It's only the standard rumble which only turned on once I'd got into the customization software oddly. The D-pad. The D-pad feels rather nice, not the best I've ever used, but it's a step up compared to many controllers out there. Better than the Joy-Cons, better than the SN30 Pro, but not quite as awesome as something like the Vita. I think if you didn't enjoy the stiffness of the SN30 Pro, you'll probably be far more happy with this one. It's more fluid and free, but not overly loose. A lot of people complained about the false diagonal inputs on the previous model when jigging the D-pad left to right, but here it seemed very good indeed just after casual testing. In regards to battery, it has a rechargeable battery pack which the manufacturer claims to last 20 hours. It's always difficult to time these things personally, but I wouldn't be shocked if that was the truth. I only charged it right when I unboxed it and haven't needed to since. It's much better than the Joy-Con batteries, although slightly less than what the official Pro controller has to offer. Here's the big question. Analog triggers. Yes, they are. Apparently, it's difficult to test because pretty much no Switch games have analog triggers programmed into them to find out. I tried with a couple of pinball games, but those inputs are programmed to be digital. I suspect these make the controllers much more useful when playing games on PC rather than the Switch, but it opens up the possibilities for future games to support the feature. In terms of syncing the device up, well I used to have some issues with their past controllers. The NES30 was a nightmare at times, the SN30 Pro was much better and this one is even better than that. Just head into the controller menu, controller order, hold start and Y and Bob's your uncle, you're connected. Once this is done you don't need to do that anymore unless you connect it to a different device including the customization software. Unfortunately, like their previous controllers, this cannot wake the Switch up from sleep mode. That doesn't bother me too much, but it's annoying for some of you, I know. Someone asked if this will work with the Nintendo Classic. The makers said yes, it will as long as you have the 8BitDo receiver, otherwise it won't work. Input lag. I know I've garnered a reputation for overlooking input lag and latency, but I swear I paid a lot of attention for this review. I honestly can't feel any difference between this controller and Nintendo's official stuff. The controller seemed very responsive during my time playing it. I tested it on a variety of games and as you can see in this Castlevania 4 footage, a level where input lag can almost guarantee a game over, the controller is very responsive, I get through the level just fine. So, build quality. Well, 8BitDo are renowned for producing some of the best third-party controllers around, especially in the retro field. This feels very nice in the hands. It's got much more meat to it than before, but it's still lightweight. Don't go expecting a heavy piece of kit. It's much lighter than it looks. It's more comparable to the Joy-Con grip in terms of weight. Value-wise, well for me, it's worth the price tag. I bought mine for around £30 here in China, which is like $37. If you can find it for that price, you've got yourselves a decent deal. Looking on Amazon UK, a pre-order is going for £43, which is pushing it considering you can get an official Pro controller for not much more than that. Amazon US has it for about $50, which again is pushing it. I think it's slightly on the expensive side there, just about, but you're still getting a nice bit of kit. Before we get into my final thoughts on the controller, here's a quick roundup of the controller's main features. While you're reading that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all our Nintendo Switch related content. We've got so much to offer. And hit that little bell so you don't miss a thing. It's well worth it, guys. So, the SN30 Pro Plus was probably an unnecessary purchase for me personally, and probably those who already own the original SN30 Pro. The only major thing it adds for owners of the previous model is the customization software, which really wasn't that necessary for me, and the lack of switching between profiles outside of the software makes it more awkward than it should be, especially if you're trying to do something a bit more complicated and in-depth with it. Despite that, there's no denying that the SN30 Pro Plus is 8BitDo's best piece of work here, and is definitely the first choice for those who don't already own one of their products or are just looking for a slightly cheaper Pro controller. It feels nice, has an excellent D-pad, and will no doubt become my primary controller for playing on the Nintendo Switch. The price point is a little too close to an official Pro controller for my liking, but if you can find it a bit cheaper, then it's a no-brainer. It's an excellent controller and one that I highly recommend. Do you guys plan on picking this up when they release it in the West? Do you already own an 8BitDo device? Let us know what you think of their products. Just a head up, I bought this myself. This was not sponsored by 8BitDo or anything, so it's an honest assessment of playing with it for a few days. Be sure to head over to my unboxing video just in case you missed it, try something a bit cool with that one, and perhaps watch some of our other stuff. We'll see you guys over there, take care.